Good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever in the world you might be watching. This training video will demonstrate and show the full power of Xlookup. Each argument is fully explored with practical examples, formula comments and graphics. Pause the video as required to study the content as required. I suggest you spend a short time considering the syntax and arguments on this first tab. It will make understanding the subject matter in the coming tabs more easily digested. I've also included a graphic of the functions arguments dialog box, which greatly simplifies the construction of formulas. This will be demonstrated as required. The second tab indicates that information from the data can be gained in a number of ways, either as a single search item, a selected number of search items, or indeed all data information for a specific search. Notice the formulas contain three arguments. The first argument is the cell containing the search item. In this case it will be a name. The second argument are the cells which contain the search item, that is, all the names. And the third argument are the cells to be returned, that is, a selected data column or columns. While the formula can be typed, it's much easier to use the function arguments dialog box, as we shall see. This avoids typing mistakes and you are guided with helpful hints along the way. As an example, let's use the dialog box to search for all information about a particular employee. We're going to delete the information for Mary, and we're going to insert a lookup in this cell in H31. So what we'll do, we'll go to the Formulas tab, Lookup and Reference, and then scroll down to Xlookup. This opens up the function arguments box and it says which cell will be the lookup value. We're going to click in the lookup cell, G31. The lookup array, I simply drag through the names, and then the return array, I select all of the cells in the data. I then click OK. And when I type in a name, we'll say Mary, and press enter, that shows me all the data for her. Notice that the formula here equals Xlookup, and then those three arguments match the formula up here in the formula bar. If I just wanted to search for, we'll say, Harry, I simply type in the name, enter, and there is Harry. So the creation of a search is quite easy when we use the function arguments dialog box. The third tab indicates that an error message can be included in the formulas as the fourth argument. It needs to be text and enclosed in double quotes. Study the dialog box here, pausing if necessary. Notice in the if not found field that not found in double quotes has been typed. As I mentioned, the error message can be any text but must appear in double quotes. If I correct Bill to show BILL, then it shows me his salary. But let's say I wanted to see Sue's salary, but I'd forget to put on the E on the end. Not found. So we would need to correct that. So the error message can be quite handy to use. The fourth tab indicates there are four match settings. An exact match by default, a match for exact or nearest record below, an exact match or nearest record above. The fourth match, which allows wildcards, is discussed in the next tab. Note in the example that -1 has been used as the match and shows the next nearest value below. Let's say that the salary lookup was going to be 65,000. This is an exact match for the salary here. Let's say that it, however, was 66,000. There is no 66,000. It still shows 2%. That is the next value below. Moving to tab number 5, we see that the formula that we use here includes a match mode of 2, indicating that we can use wildcards in the lookup data. The way wildcards work are quite simply this. Here we see the full name Bill, but let's say that we made an entry of BI and we weren't quite certain what the last 2 letters were. We could use an asterisk, and that will find us all of the letters in the name Bill. And there we see when I pressed enter. Again, another example, we'll say Mary Lou. We know it starts with an M, but what are the ensuing letters? We're not quite certain how Mary Lou's name was spelt, so we can use an asterisk, and when we press enter, there it finds Mary Lou. So the asterisks are particularly handy. They're certainly the most widely used wildcard by far. They're a Microsoft Office feature. They work in Word, PowerPoint, as well as in Excel. Here I've also shown some examples of wildcards that you may care to study. In the Search Mode tab, we see that as we scroll to the bottom of the function arguments, we can enter a search mode number. If we don't enter one, then the search in the names will be conducted from first to last. If you want to search from last to first, enter -1. If you have a particularly large set of data that you need to search, you might consider using binary. It's a fast first to last search, but the data must be sorted in ascending order. If you want a fast last to first search, the data must be sorted in descending order, and the search mode becomes -2. Most times you'll be using the default mode, which is 0, 1 or no entry at all. In the next tab, we discuss the ability of Xlookup to allow 2 inputs. We can see here that I have a first name and surname in the data, and to see the full information I've created 2 input cells, first input and second input. The formula that I've used in this particular cell uses an ampersand, and we see it is C12 plus D12, E5 to E8 plus F5 to F8, and then look at all of the data from E5 to J8, and I've used a match mode of 2. In other words, I can use wildcards. This simply means that if I wasn't quite certain, or to save time maybe, of Bill's second name, I can create a asterisk, and that will still give me the information when I press enter. Let's say that I looked up Harry as the first name with an asterisk for the second input. I can then enter, and there I see Harry's both first name and surname. So the asterisk can be used also in a dual input. It's particularly handy, but remember, of course, you do need the match mode of 2, and you need to use the ampersands to join the lookups and the columns involved. Our last item of learning is to see that Xlookup can handle nested formulas. Always remember that in all Excel formulas, the innermost arguments in brackets are handled and calculated first. So let's carefully work through this one. It's perhaps the trickiest of all of the Xlookup situations that we come across. So let's read through the items here. We need to find the branch at which an employee works. We're going to use a nested Xlookup formula in cell H11. The reason that we're looking in H11 is that we should always enter formulas in the cell in which we want the answer. So the formula will look at the nested formula first. That is, it uses these last arguments to look up what is in G11 input, that is Mary. Then it looks in the names G4 to G7, and then the range containing the names, that is from H4 to K7. Now this finds all the data for the input name. The result is then passed to the outer part of the formula where it looks for the branch at H10 and then looks for the branch to return in all the data H3 to K3. And we get the answer Dallas. Now, as I said, you will need to study this particular item carefully. Let's see how it handles another name. We'll say Harry. Where does Harry work? Harry works in Houston because the formula has followed these rules, irrespective of the name. This is one area where I strongly recommend that you pause the video and study the construction of the formula. That concludes this upload, which has demonstrated all of the features and the power of Xlookup. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Please ensure that you subscribe unless you've already done so. Likes and comments are always appreciated, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.